Hello, and welcome to the Charterstone Times, an award-winning investigative journalism and local gossip podcast, bringing you the latest news from the Santa Royale Charterstone apartment complex. Here, we aim to be your in-depth source for all going-ons in the Merryworth universe. Hello, and welcome again to the Charterstone Times. Today is Sunday, March 3rd, 2024. It is the first Sunday of the month, and finally, after a long week of Toby and Mary discussing their neighbors' lives, we have come to the end of the week. We can relax and prepare to start the work week again for corporate America tomorrow. My job, however, is a daily one, and I will be here today and tomorrow, and the day after that, 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 to bring you the most up-to-date, exciting news about the Charterstone apartment complex that you have come to rely on. This week, Mary and Toby went for a walk, and Mary invited Toby over to eat her latest food experiment. They discussed Keith Hellend's life in detail and recapped all of the events that have occurred since he has recently moved in to the Charterstone apartment complex. Today, we find ourselves outside of Merryworth's apartment. It is one of the middle units in the building, not on a corner. There are numerous flowers outside of it. I am not a botanist and do not know what type of flowers they are. We are reminded of a popular quote from Richard Bach. Who is Richard Bach? Why, he is an American writer who has written numerous flight-related works of fiction and nonfiction, including Jonathan Livingston Seagull, published in 1970, and Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah, 1977, both of which were among the 1970s biggest sellers. He is still an active writer and is now 87 years old. Most of his books have been semi-autobiographical, using actual or fictionalized events from his life to illustrate his philosophy. His books espouse his philosophy that our apparent physical limits and mortality are merely appearance. Bach is noted for his love of aviation and his books related to flying in a metaphorical context. He has flown as a hobby since the age of 17. In August of 2012, he was severely injured when on approach to landing at Friday Harbor, Washington. His aircraft clipped some power lines and crashed upside down in a field. I will spare you the bulk of the rest of his Wikipedia article, however, point out that he most recently married Melinda Jane Kellogg in 2020. Wow, good going for you, Richard David Bach. Anyways, we're reminded that he once said, "The bond that links your true family is not one of blood, but of respect and joy in each other's life." Wow, Richard Bach could be a guest writer for this lovely comic strip known as Merryworth. As we zoom back into the Charterstone apartments, we find that someone's telling Mary that her stew is delicious. Mary stares at us, breaking the fourth wall as she says, "Thanks, dear." We then find ourselves inside the table and see it is still Toby. At Merryworth's table, there is a third empty seat, leaning against the window. We notice Mary has a nice portrait of flowers in the background. After Mary and Toby saw Keith with Kitty and Sonia, Mary mentioned, "Our neighbor looks very pleased with his new family." A family he was surprised by and ultimately embraced as his own. Toby side-eyes Mary. wondering what the hell she is talking about. We zoom outside of the apartment complex and find out that despite the initial panel showing Mary being in a middle unit, she is actually now in a corner unit. Some small fowl fly out of the grass in front of it. The flowers are now no longer to be seen. Someone says he's a traditional guy who suddenly had to adapt to changing circumstances that he turned in his favor. Mary looks at us and says, "It just goes to show the family we create is not always the one we're born with." Keith has his big, meaty man claws around Kitty and Sonia as he wears a much brighter green shirt. Is this finally the end of the Keith Hellend saga? Tune in tomorrow to find out.
That's all for today's edition of the Charterstone Times. Thank you again, as always, for listening. I hope you will tune in tomorrow to see what else happens in the exciting world of the Charterstone Apartments and Mary Worth.